Hey, this is Mike Cornwell, the founder of Dixie Fruits. This is our weekly video update where we answer your questions, we go over our projects, and we help you with yours. This week, we're going over compost, seeds, and a local garden project at a high school that we're really interested in. As part of our question and answer section, we've got a couple people asking us on Facebook whether or not they can buy online and the best way to do that. Well, right now we're working on our e-commerce website. That should be up here, if not next week, maybe the next week after that. We just need to get on it. And then once we have that going, I'll point the link over to you guys, and then you'll be able to buy. There was another, I guess it's a correction, where on, I think it was Instagram, we posted a picture of these apples that we grafted. One was a James Grieve and the other one was a Grafting. And I made the comment that it's like a father of some of the oldest apples. And Eliza on Facebook, she basically asked the question, which varieties come from James Grieve? Great question. When I thought about it, I actually had it backwards when I made this statement, or at least when I purchased the James Grieve apple. And it turns out, after kind of looking into it, that the father of that one is actually the one that probably should have been in the Grafting picture, which is the Cox Orange Pippin. So if you don't know, the Cox Orange Pippin is a pretty famous apple in Britain, and it seems to be the father of or mother of many fruits, especially in Britain. So that's kind of a correction there. Thanks to Eliza for pointing that out. One of the things that we did this week was we started grafting over some of these trees that we've had. You'll find that with some of the varieties of trees that you might grow, they may not perform the way that you think they will, so you may find yourself wanting to graft over the top of them. That's one of the best ways, or best things that you can do with a fruit tree. Instead of thinking that you need to replace it if it doesn't work out, you can just replace the variety of it. And this is one of the ones here. This is an in-shimmer apple that we did all sorts of different grafts to, mostly because we wanted to try something different. This is here at this English garden, and we want as many varieties as we can pack in this area as possible. And so with this variety of apple, we wanted to put 5 different ones on it. One in particular that we wanted to kind of call attention to is this red cinnamon. This is one of these ones that you may have a hard time finding online. We found it through this government repository. It's from Sweden. And the reason why we're growing it is there's this kind of belief about chill hours in apples. And so we wanted to test that. So we got all these varieties of apples from these extremely cold climates. So Sweden, Finland, Saskatchewan, Canada. What are some other ones? Russia is one of them. And so we wanted to test whether or not these varieties, which are really at the end extreme of their range of growth, whether or not they would do well here. As a reminder, we're in southeast Louisiana, so it couldn't be further away from those climates. And what it seems to be, and we've kind of been seeing this ourselves, is that when the branches are bent, they end up fruiting. So with this one, we're going to do just like these guys over here, where we anchor these branches so that they don't grow up all tall. They'll start to be bent horizontally and create fruiting wood. Another thing that we got going on this week is we went ahead and started some spring seeds. The weather's been great. It's a little early, a little different than normal, but we went ahead and got the seeds in the ground. And we just went ahead and we started seeding these seeds. I think it was 2 days ago, and you can see they've already popped up. They're extremely healthy. We've got these kind of larger seeds here. These are radishes. And all these other little guys, they are different types of brassicas, turnips, greens, and those types of things. So we have these greens right next to the house. So when they start growing up and we want to start picking on them, we don't have to walk very far. We can just walk right outside and pick them. When people look at starting their garden, especially like their spring garden, and these kind of things that you'll pick very regularly to eat for dinner, just go ahead and put them close to your house. You'd be surprised at how much you get from your garden when it's much closer to your house. Another thing that we had going on this week is we put together this compost pile. This compost pile is part of an 18-day cycle hot compost where we got the idea and the directions from Jeff Lawton on his DVD on soils. We highly recommend taking a look at this DVD, which gives a great example and an explanation of how a compost pile is supposed to be done. The reason why we're doing this compost pile is we want to supercharge our raised garden beds. We've noticed over the last few years that they have not performed nearly at the level that we want to, and it's pretty obvious that it's really kind of a microbial issue. Well, that's what compost is all about. It's a little bit less so of reusing the organic materials and more about charging the life in the soil by incubating it with the compost pile. You should definitely take a look into building a compost pile. Go online, take a look at hot compost, and if you have a raised garden bed issue, this might be a good way to solve that. One of the things that we did that was of a lot of excitement for us was talking with David Trish at Fontainebleau High School. I met David a little while back at a permaculture meetup event, and he kind of explained to me some of the stuff that he was doing as part of the ag science teacher at Fontainebleau High School. And we had an opportunity this week to actually go with them and take a look at the high school and see some of the stuff they had going on. I tell you what, it was kind of impressive. In the amount of time that he's been there, he's been able to get all these different programs going where the high schoolers themselves are actually involved with doing a lot of things that many people just kind of like dream about. Like they'll talk about doing these things, or you might.
I never had any of that.
You.
In my high school.
Yeah, no kidding. The cameraman, if you couldn't hear him, he was saying that he didn't have any of those kind of things going on in his high school. Mine, definitely not. So they were doing things like they had raised garden beds. They had like a chicken coop going. They were getting all the scraps and all the waste product from the lunchroom, and they've got it in like these 2-stage compost things. And like going out there, it was one thing before for him to like tell me it. It was another to go and see it, where he had these like rows between the different classrooms.
Got more raised beds than we do.
Yeah, he just said that they have more raised beds than we do, which is kind of incredible. I mean, he's got like all these raised beds like in a line. And what's interesting is he's like really actually testing stuff. So he won't just like do these kind of things as like a theoretical in the classroom. He's like going out and doing them, like actually having the students go out and do them. But he's not doing it the best and perfect way. He's trying them in different ways, and he was telling us about some of his failures, and I definitely understand that. But it's one thing to read about them, and it's another to actually experience the losses yourself, that you didn't realize that the garden beds were put too close to a structure facing south, and then so wintertime they couldn't use those beds anymore because they were covered up with shade.
Yeah, those greenhouses on the raised beds.
Yeah, the greenhouses on the raised beds, for example, he put these hoop houses over the raised beds to try to extend the season, and sure enough, there was like this crazy storm or windy storm that came by and just blew them off, and it didn't change anything, and it just froze all the vegetables. That's a learning lesson, let me tell you. And especially, it's one thing if you do it on like 1 or 2 garden beds. It's another if you do it across 17 garden beds. So what we're doing with them is he brought us in to start looking at doing fruit trees. And it was really cool. We're looking at all these different spaces and thinking about what we could put there. There was like in so many different places you'll see this, where in a parking lot there'll be this like grass strip that's enclosed in parking blocks. And so we're looking at putting trees inside those parking blocks. There was like all these little teeny tiny areas where there was just kind of these grass spaces that we'd be able to put food hedges. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see what this place looks like here in a couple of years once it's started to develop more. So that's one of the things that we did this week that we're extremely excited about. And as we work more with them and things kind of progress, we'll bring them towards you. And if you're interested in these kinds of things, give us kind of a shout out, and maybe we can help you out. So the stuff that we got going on this week, we have a number of things going on, and since it's super pretty outside, we're going to go ahead and get our spring seeds in the ground. And one of the things that we're doing that's kind of interesting is the Seminole pumpkin. It is this kind of winter squash pumpkin type plant, and it produces this pretty decent size, I guess, pumpkin. And it comes from Florida. It's a native cultivated pumpkin that many of the Native Americans actually grew there, and it's supposed to be able to handle hot and humid conditions. And so the way that we're going to try them out is we're actually going to put them on these berms. Some of these berms have, there's a lot of soil openness in these places, and we're hoping that these vines will be able to kind of cover in some of these lower spots. Meanwhile, producing something that not only is extremely healthy for you, but is something that is it's storable. I mean, some people kind of say these things can store for a year, no problem. That's the kind of stuff I'm always looking for. And this berm has been a little tricky trying to create cover on it. So that's kind of our main thing that we're doing. Another thing that we're looking at doing as well is starting beans. This is kind of one of the first years that I've done beans myself. We've done some kind of summer beans, but these spring beans, we're looking at putting them on the typical TP trellises. We're also trying something a little different. Like over here, we're going to be experimenting actually growing these beans on trees. So back behind me is this Pakistan mulberry, and what we expect to happen is right now it's got all these little fruits on it. We'll go ahead and pick all those, but we're going to plant at the base of this a ton of different beans. And what they'll do is they'll start wrapping themselves up and around this tree and then using it as a natural trellis. But the nice thing is they're not going to get up and over this tree and really on it until we've already pulled all the fruit off. So there's not really going to be too much of a, competition. But in this same space, we'll be able to get 2 different crops off of it this year. So those are the seeds that we've got going on this week. Well, this begins our wrap up of our weekly summary. This is Aaron Snelling who's joining us, and so he's
cameraman extraordinaire.
Yes, the cameraman. Or I guess, should we be looking at each other or the camera? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll figure that out.
Yeah. Wait for at least week 4. We'll get that down.
I see.
Yeah.
So what did you think about this kind of first week? Because we had you doing a lot of different stuff.
I was just surprised at how hot it was. Mostly, it looked like a lobster the other day.
Yeah, to give an idea, this is the second week of February.
Yeah.
And we've hit like 80 degrees at least once.
It's hot out right now. Drinking cold lemonade. Yeah, I mean it was cool. There was, the stuff with Fontainebleau was real neat. That's something I haven't seen anywhere else, especially as already. I mean, he's only been there with like a couple of months, and they've put in all those raised beds and pretty much. And if we could get like I don't know 20 something trees up there or trees and bushes, that'd be really cool.
I mean, one of the things we didn't talk about it that it definitely jumped out to us when we went there, and then he mentioned it. So we didn't bring it up. He brought it up about doing like the main entrance.
Yeah,
it's like this snaky kind of like thing, and I guess
driveway.
and I guess they've got I'm pretty sure they already got crepe myrtles there, but then start packing in like these fruit trees. And once they start blooming, it's gonna be crazy.
It'll be a nice sight when you're getting to school. Hopefully, those kids brightens their day a little bit. Sure. Yeah.
So what do you think about? I guess this next week we're going to be pretty busy doing.
I'm excited. I'm really excited to see how those beans work on that. What's the Pakistani mulberry?
Yeah.
The up there. Mulberry. I mean, once we get those fruits off, we'll see how those beans grow. I mean, I imagine about the time that we can pick, those beans will start reaching where the buds are now. And hopefully we get that timing right. But either way, it'll be cool to see if we can use that as like a living trellis. Hopefully, once we get that the pumpkins out there, that'll put down a really serious cover crop. I mean, we got pretty concrete out there right now, but
yeah, there's some wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess some other things that we had coming up is we're going to be doing a ton of grafting. It's like the beginning of the season, and we're finally going to be getting these rootstocks in. So it's going to be graft, graft, graft. You learn a good bit about that this week. I mean, at this point, you know I graft.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that simple.
Well, I'm excited for when we do the four rootstocks, 4 trees, the apple bushes.
Yes, the apple bushes. This idea that I got from Dave Wilson Nursery in California, and just planting 4 trees in one area and then kind of shaping them out to look like a bush. There's Julia in the background playing with my hat and trying to hit bumblebees.
It's our beekeeper right there.
Yes, our future beekeeper.
Well, anyway, guys, I think that's it for this week. If you like anything, definitely shout out, say something, comment, share, yada yada. I'm sure you know what to do. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us here on Facebook or
wherever
email.
this video can be found.
Yeah.
Shoot a comment out, and we'll get it. We started doing questions in the beginning of these videos, and we like to be able to make these much more applicable to some of the stuff that you guys have going on. We've got our projects, but we know you guys have your projects as well, and maybe just before you start doing some of these things, if you have some questions, maybe we can actually show you some of the things here.
Let us experiment first. So if anything goes horribly wrong,
yes, then you can blame us.
of course, if it goes really well, we'll probably take credit for it.
Yeah. So that's it. We'll see you next week.